5 seconds and counting. We're still go at this time.
Is internal.
Coming up in the
12,
sequence.
11, 10, 4,
9,
3,
ignition
2,
sequence start.
1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Altitude 13,005. Velocity 9,100 feet per second.
Made it, switch over time, please, Juice. Roger, stand by. You're looking great at 8 minutes.
Correction on that velocity, now reading 760 feet per second.
It's the P-64. Good. Roger.
Fido says we're go, altitude 9,200 feet.
830, you're looking great. Eagle, you're looking great. Coming up 9 minutes.
We're now in the approach phase, everything looking good. Altitude 5,200 feet.
Manual out of beep control is good. Roger, copy.
Altitude 4,200.
Houston, you're a go for landing, over. Roger, understand. Go for landing. 3,000 feet. Put out of alarm. 1201. 1201. Roger, 1201 alarm. We're go. Same type. We're go. 2,000 feet. 2,000 feet. Into the ag. 47 degrees. Roger. 47 degrees.
I can't believe it. Just how much of it's drained and it's looking at your brain. Success, cruise control. Sorry, say again. Cruise control. Haha, you lucky bugger.
I think one of the things I like about the bike the most is the fact that you're exposed to the elements. The wind and the rain, the cold, I get exhilarated by all of that. I just think that there's nothing that would deter me from my excitement in what I'm doing in this ride.
I grew up riding motorbikes. If I wasn't riding, I was on the back of my dad's bike, riding down in the Snow Mountains or out in the Blue Mountains. I just felt like I was always on a bike somewhere. Dad and I, when we ride, we look for the dirt roads, we look for the alternate way. I think riding these back roads and going the alternate way is just a massive throwback to my childhood.
One thing that I really need in my life is freedom. Riding the bike through the country like that is is such a unique sense of freedom that you can't get anywhere else. It's just about seeing this beautiful country and the sense of freedom that you can feel in a country like this. You're not kind of stopped every 5 minutes with a border check. You don't need to carry your passport around with you. You don't need to really be in fear of anything. You can just ride wherever you want to and see whatever you want to see, and it's just all accessible.
It's the fact that it's difficult, I think. I think it's as simple as that. And I guess that's the adventure side of it, because you're riding along and you don't see another motorbike. It's just going to places where you normally, even if you drove to the places that we went on this motorbike trip, you wouldn't get the sense of what a motorbike rider would get out of it. You couldn't.
How far is it to the cam? I would think that maybe it's about 10 or 15 to the turn off, then another 10.
Well, I guess it's just whoever wants to go, you know. It's so people come from anywhere in Australia. So sometimes it's in Northern Territory, sometimes it's in WA. It just depends on the year and where it's on. And this year it was on at Wanneroo, or you can, or however you say it.
Well, they try and pick somewhere that there's a lot of dirt, 300 or 400 k's of dirt, and it's got to be hard, it can't be easy, there's only spirited riders, I suppose, would attend it. Yeah, it's an adventure, you need somewhere hard to make it an adventure, so that's why they chose Wanneroo. It's the first time I'd been there.
I didn't know where the hell Wanneroo was, or even how to pronounce it, or where is it. But it basically is just a pub in the middle of nowhere, Western New South Wales up north.
Riders from all around Australia go to this rally from wherever they live. So they could be in Brisbane, they could be in Perth, and we left from Sydney.
I mean, you can do it in 2 or 3 days, or you can do it in 2 weeks. It depends on if you want to go the long way home or the long way there.
We normally do alpine rallies. I've grown up riding riding in the snow mountains, so it was good to have see some different things, see some different scenery. I've seen the snow the year before. We got snowed in big time in the snow mountains, so it was nice to think about seeing some red dirt and nothing but flat landscape. I thought that should be fun.
I'm getting sick of these straight roads already. What are you sick of? These bloody straight roads, mate, they're doing my head in already. What's wrong with them? They're straight.
It's very different to what we would normally ride on. When the 4 of us ride together, it's usually up in the Alpine region in the Australian Alps. And those roads are pretty windy and they very slow slow going usually, and there's nothing really too monotonous about it, and that's what's so good about that region. It's so interesting. Like every road you take has got some feature about it which makes it interesting. It's either really steep, or it's muddy, or it's through a river or something like that. Whereas the off-centre rally that we're going on is pretty much just straight roads. Roads as straight as the eye can see, like somebody just got a straight edge and just drew the road in, and that was it.
So Ben, what are you going to have in Hobart? I think I might start with a beer. A what? Start with a beer. Come on, Duncan. Don't tell me you weren't thinking of it. It sounded like he's going to have a fight with a beer. Like a fist fight.
About the road closures. We were really trying to get from Cobar to Wenaring via Louth.
Yep, no problems at all. Just have a look at the road closures. We get them from all the shires and the RTA. Road to Louth is fine.
It's fine.
It's open. And the road from Louth to Bourke is open.
Know any good bush camping spots?
No, there's really no layaways there, but or rest areas, but there's plenty of good spots just by the side of the road. Just get something a bit high out of the water and you'll be right.
Enough to get some dry wood and a good fire.
Oh, plenty of that there on your postie bikes.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, take care.
See ya.
There was no one day that was just, we're just going to go up the road, have a nice easy day and get in at 3 o'clock and, you know, sit down in front of a nice fire. You know, you get in at midnight and be trying to light wet timber and stuff.
Duncan, have you got your dark visor on? No, I can't see a thing. I got my goggles on, I can't see much. Can't see any roos coming. Yeah, won't see them.
You're doing something that's difficult, and it's rewarding because it is difficult, and you don't whinge about it, you don't moan about it, you just get on with it, because everyone's relying on each other for that sense of fun, I guess.
Okay, you ready for your warmth?
I'm probably going to need a bit more than that to warm me up.
You're not getting any of that heat over here.
No, I'm not either.
That was a bit of an anticlimax, to be honest.
I'm going to blow it out now, you just got it started.
Come on, it should go.
That's my kind of fire, Dad.
I got Josh interested in bikes, I think, from when I used to take him on the back on the Alpine rallies that I did for about 28 years or something like that. He used to come on the back.
Dad taught me to ride, you know, when I was really young, 6, 7, 8.
He came on the back for probably 8 or 10 years. And I think he got used to sleeping out in the cold at that time.
I remember one time Dad challenged all these kids who were staying with us out at this sheep station, about 10 of them, ranging from 8 to 15. Dad said to all the kids and adults, all right, I challenge you all to sleep outside tonight. It was looking like it would be -10 with big frost.
I remember once working with some Russians, and they were telling a story about they used to go out into the Siberia wilderness for 2 weeks every year hunting.
With no sleeping bag, just a doona. Just wrap yourself in it.
So they took some, I think they had a couple of dogs, and they used to load their own cartridges and a pot for tea, a pot for flour, and they just go out and lay in the bloody snow, you know.
I told him no way. I was about 13, no way. Some other kids did it and froze all night. It was just crazy.
And so one year I told him, sorry Josh, you're too big now, I can't fit all this stuff on this trail bike. You'll have to stay at home. And he was a bit disappointed about that. And he said, look, I won't take any gear. I said, you're crazy, you've got to take, it's -10 there, you've got to have gear. He said, the Russians can do it, I can do it. That's it. Okay, I'm not good happy about it, but I suppose it's one way of learning.
The very next year, I was out there doing the same thing by myself. No challenge. It just clicked for me how cool stuff like that could be.
So that's what we did, and he just lay on the ground in his gear that he rode with, and he did that for 3 nights.
What was that? Condensed milk and chicory or something, I think. You can only drink this camping. Take it home and drink it and you vomit into the sink. It's terrible.
So he sort of had that strange upbringing, I suppose, and it's made him what he is.
So Josh, you having fun yet, mate? Yeah, it's all good. I'm just thinking about how cold it is, actually. Can we just call it -27 with wind chill? I don't think it's -27.
There was Duncan on a KTM 640. Josh, my son, on his postie, Ben on his postie, and me on a postie, so 3 posties. Duncan was a friend of Joshua's. Ben is Joshua's business partner, and I think Josh got him into bikes as well, into road bikes and then into the postie thing.
I think it was a joke that Josh and I came up with, why not ride postie bikes? I mean, it's the postie bikes, and it's an Australian icon, I guess, and they're reliable, they're easy to fix, and they're just bulletproof.
And Ben was going to, he had a big bracket made on his bike to slip on a surfboard. He was going to ride the waves out at Cameron Corner.
And they've got terrible suspension, and going at 80 kilometres an hour on a postie bike feels like 150 on a road bike.
You know, true adventure is getting to inaccessible areas on inappropriate machinery, and postie bike's just made for that, really. It's horrible to ride, it's got no power, no brakes, they look awful. But they are a lot of fun, I suppose, because you know you're on an adventure, and you've got to approach everything a lot differently on a postie.
Postie bikes, it's just the most slowest, dodgiest dirt bike that you could possibly get.
I can't really see why you'd want to make a challenge like this any more challenging, but the other guys definitely did.
The whole bike's just wants to fall over that way. Watch this.
Pulls? You look like a World War II fighter pilot, Josh. Well, you know what, with those numbers on the back of the helmet, you kind of fit the part too.
Can you turn to the right? No. And Dad bought them in 1973.
Have you smelt that thing? You love that smell. Yeah, but that's not wax cotton. So you wouldn't mind if I hop on that bike just to compare? Compare notes?
Just to compare, mate, this is the lightest bike of all of them, for sure. Don't sit on another bike though, just trust me.
I still don't understand why you'd want to do that to yourself, to make an already difficult trip even more difficult.
Kangaroos up ahead.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we got the full smorgasbord today.
Kilo Hungary.
So it was really interesting riding on that bike, on those roads. Like, it takes a long time to get anywhere. I sort of think of myself as mentally tough. Been through some hard situations and had to get through them. I was really shocked at how quickly I was struggling. We didn't really plan it too much. I don't like to plan the rides too much. We knew it was a long way away. I probably calculated the distance at some point, but I love to not plan it too much. I think it's better that it's not so planned.
Head up through here to Minari.
Yeah, I've never been on that road there.
But on the bikes you should be able to get through that,
But-
because that's out in the open country.
Yeah.
That could have been the road they come
Johnny,
down.
I got no idea where that is. So that's if you make sure that's signposted well, so you can actually it's a road.
Yeah, sure.
And take that one back up there. Then you'd be fine. You'll do that in half the time. Where it says road open.
Yeah.
I'd be inclined to go back to there.
But that's a dotted line. We've found
Yeah,
that they're more fun.
Oh well, no. If you want to do that, that's fine.
Why wouldn't you go on that? Why wouldn't you go on that one, the dotted line one?
No, if you can go, well, if you can, because that's where it's flooded more here than up there. That will take a bit more wind.
Growing up, my dad always challenged me. Small little challenges. Try and jump up this or climb over that, or how far can you run to there? And sometimes he would race me, sometimes he'd just time me. I think as an adult, I am trying to recreate those little challenges, that little buzz I got as a kid. I'm trying to recreate that.
So we thought we might have lunch here. Might end up having dinner.
Well, as long as dinner's served with a beer, I'm fine with that.
Going these back roads is a small way of feeling like a kid again. I get the buzz that I had as a child with those small challenges.
Where are we? Lau.
Tilpa.
Right. Trying to get up to Minari.
Yeah, well, what I was going to suggest to you, go on this side of the river, up 30 k's, and you go out through here. You can take Newcham Road up to there and in.
Oh man, that'd be brilliant.
But this first 30 k's, I don't know what it's like, and I don't know what it's like at Carney Road.
Yeah. We're not opposed to
riding up on the
severe hardship.
Yeah, well, I know there's a lot of water on this road, and there's a lot of wheel tracks and that.
Yeah, well look, they're alright.
Deep wheel tracks.
I guess the problem is just
but if you
when we
leave
get
here,
bogged up to the axle.
So riding on these straight roads is so hard. I found it so hard. And I'm just drawing on these challenges I had as a child to help me get through it by knowing that I'd been able to challenge myself and get through it in the past, but I didn't have any way of working it through on these roads. I just couldn't figure out a way to do it. I tried to set little challenges.
Success!
Holding it full throttle, 90 k's an hour to get there faster, but we never got anywhere because the roads were just never ended.
Alright, fellas, about that, aren't you?
Oh, you know, I mean, I always try and stay switched on. So it's just mentally really, really taxing.
That's a great vibe, man. I love it.
And you know, that a lot of the time that's when you come off, I think, when you're not concentrating and not having anyone else that's relying on you essentially, apart from the people you're riding with. But you can just switch off and think about things that you just haven't thought about for the last time you've been on a ride, essentially. It's kind of like a mental escape for yourself, I think.
I don't really think about much when I'm on the bike, if I'm honest. I just think about the road surface that we're riding on and the landscape. Sometimes you just think about what the other guys are doing, whether they've fallen behind or if somebody's run out of fuel. And when you get those rare moments when you've got nothing that you need to think about, you just kind of relish in the moment that you don't have to think about anything. Even if it looks like a straight road, sometimes the bull dust or the potholes or the ruts, they'll determine where you ride on the road. And so you really have to pick your route through them. And it focuses you onto the moment. It makes you think about the moment you're in, whether you want to or not, because it does take a fair bit of concentration.
Hey Josh, can you hear me?
Yeah, when I saw him lying there, it was an experience of, I can't think. When I saw him lying there, motionless as he was, covered in mud and with inadequate crash gear on. He had an old Belstaff, my old Belstaff suit that was probably 35 years old, no padding. Really, it's just waxed cotton.
It's just like this numb pain.
Oh, Josh.
Right
Do you know
on
what?
that leg, Josh.
My right leg.
If it's just a father's worst nightmare, seeing his son injured.
It's just this numb pain. I had the wind knocked out of me and I felt just this pain everywhere. It was like I was in a pain cloud. It was everywhere. I didn't know where it was, and all I could do was I grabbed at my radio and I just clicked the button and said, I'm down, I'm down, I'm down.
Just the type of blood-curdling sort of moan that he was uttering just told me that he was in a lot of pain.
Anyway, we arrived at the accident and Josh is lying in it was kind of like the Grand Canyon of wheel tracks. It was just, you could lose a bike in it. It was massive. And he was just lying in the middle of it, and he was obviously in pain, but you know, he was all right. And when I say all right, he was alive. So, you know, it sounds weird, but I was relieved, because it could have been much worse. It really could have.
I'm going too fast. 50 kilometres an hour was too fast to take this rut. So I got into the rut, and the next thing I know, I'm just having a massive tank slapper, and I'm flying through the air wondering, what am I looking at here? And I just slammed into the ground so hard. It just took the wind out of me. I was stunned.
I'm going to go get a guy with someone with a ute or something.
It got to the stage where someone had to go back.
Hey, I'm starting to think I'm going to go get someone with a ute or something. I'll be back soon.
Okay, he's thinking he can't ride, so it's probably good.
For Josh to say that was serious.
I jumped on the bike and rode back to the
So I should be back in about half an hour.
to the pub. I took it really easy on the way back because I was a bit, it's a bit freaky when you see someone in pain. Anyway, got back to the pub and walked in, and the publican was there, and I told him about the accident. He went, I knew it. And he was a bit cranky, and at the time I thought, why is he? Anyway, he was a nice guy, but he got in the car and we were driving there. He was a bit cranky about it, and he called one of the other farmers to see if they could come and help.
The pain just kept on being so present in my mind. I couldn't control it. It's like if you whack your finger with a hammer, eventually that pain subsides. As hardcore as it is, you know it's going away. It just didn't go away. It was just relentless, this buzz of pain.
It's a very hard thing to maintain some decorum when your son is injured. And I was just laying there with his head in my lap, and all of these thoughts came welling up inside.
Where's the pain mainly, Josh?
Right in my knee.
Your right knee.
And this made me start to question my way as a parent, introducing my son to a dangerous hobby. And I sort of started to regret that and have all of those terrible feelings come over me about bad parent.
Eventually, I think I started going into some sort of shock. I was just shivering. It was in the full sun, but there was a wind blowing and I was just shivering, and the shivering was just killing me. My leg was just, it was just in agony. Dad put a blue tarp over me, which was amazing. And he got down and rested my head on his leg, which was nice. It felt a bit weird being so vulnerable in that position that no son wants to be in with their father. But there I was.
Jeez, I can't do it. That's right.
I was so determined to make this rally, to make it to the destination. I thought the pain would dissipate and I'd get up, dust myself off and ride off.
Josh doesn't normally say, I can't get back up again. Doesn't matter what he goes through, he'll fall over and bounce straight back up again, but this time it was different. So we all did what we could to support him and to try to find out what was the problem. And it was obvious it was his right knee that was smashed up. But again, we didn't know if it was just ligaments or it was actually bone, or to what degree. It was just very painful.
And I couldn't accept it. I'd never backed down from a challenge. I'd never kept laying down. I've always gotten up.
This is the worst accident I've ever had. Worst pain.
Worst everything. At least it was riding motorbikes and not doing something dumb like driving a car. Oh, hurts though. Eventually Ben came back with a four-wheel drive, Republican's four-wheel drive, and they started talking about putting me in the back of the four-wheel drive. That was one of the most horrendous thoughts I've ever had in my whole life, to be moved 3 or 4 meters. I didn't understand how it would be possible.
And at Tilpa they had a full radio station and the flying doctors at an airstrip there. So it was reasonably convenient in a way.
My knee, it feels swollen, I can feel my toes.
Yep.
Wiggle them.
Yep.
It doesn't feel like my thigh at all, it's just right in my knee.
Yeah. Stay there for a sec, just or do you want to sit up?
No, I just want to just slowly. Oh.
We all helped to carry Josh and put him into the back of it.
Stop my leg from flopping.
I got your leg. You need to grip on my shoulder. Don't touch that. Take your weight. Come on, grab the other leg.
No, the other leg's good.
You alright?
Oh, it's so wobbly.
Is it cut, Tony, or open, or?
I don't think it's open.
There's no bleeding by the look of it. They haven't got his trousers opened up or anything, but it doesn't look like it's been bleeding.
And I'll never forget when we were riding back to Tilpa, Ben got on the radio to me and he said, "So Duncan, what do you want to do? Do you want to keep riding on this rally, or what do you reckon?" And I said to him, "Oh, I don't know. I just don't know." Because I was so spooked by this accident. I thought, now that one of us is down, like, it just really brought home the sense of mortality. I realized that we weren't indestructible. I felt like somehow we were made of soft human-like substance, not body armor and, motorbike boots and helmets and stuff. The ride back to that airstrip, I felt like it was one of the longest rides of my life. It was just laced with unknown.
I didn't want to be the cause of them stopping their ride. We talked about this ride for 2 years. They had to keep going. To know that you're in such agony and help is just right there and so easy was, I really started to calm down and the pain started to disappear, except for the localised pain right on my knee. It was, the relief was unexplainable.
Ready? Go! Don't pull it up though. Oh, pull the toe down. Okay, bottom heel up, toe down. Yeah! Oh. The ride is not only physical but mental too. Here's the mental part. Big time.
We just done it last year.
It's a funny feeling after that. He wanted us to continue on, certainly to Wanaring, to the off-centre rally. I had mixed feelings about it, but then I thought, I can't help. I didn't know the extent of his injuries, so I could deal with that a little bit. He's just injured, and now he's in the best possible place he could be.
He was going back for help. He was going to be all right. I mean, I just thought, let's crack on. Let's get on with it. We've still got to go on the ride. It was sort of business as usual. I mean, it's like you don't give up a soccer game when someone hurts themselves. They get off the pitch and someone else comes on and you keep going.
really hard to leave the guys. You know, we had such a tight-knit group and focused on this journey, and here I am about to take off on a new journey into the complete unknown.
So I continued on and had a great ride all the way to Annaring through all the thick sand, into the dark, into the night and mud. And, it was a great ride.
If I had planned for this, I wouldn't have come. Thanks a lot for your help.
But you're stable.
So eventually Duncan, it started to get dark, and I think Duncan got sick of doing the very slow speeds on his KTM, and so the two posties were left there, and it was starting to get dark, and then we switched on our headlights, and there was just a car track down the centre, and you could just, sometimes in amongst the sand, you could see this hard bit of dirt, so we're trying to get our tyres into this wheel track that would disappear every now and again into a big thick sand patch.
My front headlight went out and it just kept blowing. I don't know what was wrong with it. So I essentially had no headlights, so I had to ride with Paul. And man, it was a long day. And you could tell Paul was really shaken up.
And we tried that again for probably an hour, I suppose. We rode like that with one postie light, which is about 2 candle power. And in the end, it just drove me crazy, you know, just looking intensely at 6 feet in front of you to find a wheel track. It sent me crazy. So I pulled up and I said, man, I've got to have a spell in my eyes, I've got a headache. When we pulled up, I realised that I had a bottle of bourbon. So we each had a swig of that. And that instantly gave us all this Dutch courage. So away we went again, and we went probably another hour, and then we pulled up and had another swig, and each time we had a little swig, life became so much better. But you know, I always wondered, did Ben put that globe in correctly, or did he put it in wrong and it just didn't work? And we spent all that time riding in the dark for the next 3 hours probably. You know, he's got no headlight when he could have just put the globe in properly, so I've always thought I'd like to know that.
We eventually got onto some tar road and I went, well, mate, we're here, beautiful. Came around a corner and you could see the pub, and man, I don't like being the centre of attention at the best of times, but...
It's a Rudy deflector by Coopers.
200 people erupted and we just walked over and having a look at a postie bike with a surfboard on its side, and I went, oh God, can I just leave my helmet on and go somewhere else?
Who's the owner of this here machine?
You know, it was so stupid. I don't even know how we got there, but eventually it seemed like a 12-hour ride. Duncan had disappeared. He was clearly at Winnering enjoying himself at the pub.
I can't believe they did it with the crappy little headlights.
Really deep forward ride track through the mud.
I think Paul was having a miserable time, then we had 3 sips of white soda and really loved every moment of it.
It ended up, he was lying down in the ditch of the wheel track and his bike was facing the other direction.
Had a surf yet?
Not yet.
Anyway, we arrived in Winnering and we were happy as pigs in mud, I can tell you, not through the fact that the journey was ended, or the fact that it was ended. You know, I could just ridden all night like this. We were having so much fun, it was amazing. And it made me really sad because it's just been the greatest part of my life riding those bikes. I mean, people laugh at you all the time. Nobody can understand why we do it. Sometimes I don't even know why I do it. I just know that it's just the most exciting and most enjoyable thing I've done in my whole life. But the next day I knew I needed to get back, and so I rode for 13 hours back to Tottenham, where I had to go and get the truck and trailer and go out to Tulpa, pick up his bike and all his gear. That was a terrible experience for me, just seeing all his gear and his bike there, and
It's about 5:30, he's been in there all day.
I remember, because I was by myself, I remember struggling really with that. And then I had to bring them back to Tottenham and back to Sydney, and then flew over to Adelaide to be with him. But just that time alone was really terrible. I couldn't touch any of his gear without all that feeling of seeing him injured.
There I was in the hospital waiting for the x-ray results to find out what had happened to my leg. And the nurse comes in to me and said, "Oh geez, you really smashed it." And I didn't understand. I thought I'd dislocated my knee or ligaments, but I found out that I'd crushed the tibial plateau, which is the bottom half of my knee. It's really hard to talk about this. I thought it'd be easy, but it's reliving the memories it's really tricky. Like what you go through when you're having injuries, you could never imagine it unless you go through it.
Beautiful.
So anyway, Duncan and I'm not sure when Duncan decided he was going. All I knew was I was going. If I was going alone, I was going alone. But I had to finish it.
Where to? Well, that was always up for discussion as well, because ultimately we'd reached the rally side and we didn't need to go any further, but we just wanted to see how much we could see, really.
We just want to follow the road to Cameron Corner.
Cameron Corner was always a goal for us because it was that classic junction between New South Wales, Queensland and South Australia.
Cooper's Green, Pala, yeah.
And that's pretty much due west from where Winnering is. But it's a long ride, especially on a postie bike.
Having the dynamics changed of a trip where there's 4 people and a trip where there's 2, you know, you're always a bit worried that when it comes to 2, there's only 2 of you. How's the dynamic going to change? If it changes, how the trip's going to be, because it's going to be completely different.
Ben doesn't like carrying a lot of tools or doesn't know how to. I'm not really sure what the motive for not carrying any tools is, but that's something which yeah, it was interesting, because whenever he needed some tools, I was always the go-to guy, and I was happy to provide them. But
do you want to see a loose chain?
I just couldn't understand why you'd want to go all the way out there and not take tools. Wouldn't you want to be able to fix your bike? I don't know, like maybe that's just his way of being free, who knows.
Cameron's Corner was a complete letdown. I don't think I've seen that many 4-wheel drives in my life, really.
When you're riding in these rallies, you're going to be surrounded by a lot of like-minded people. But it's interesting when your group is reduced down to just 2 of you. It really highlights everyone's going to have personality differences, and I think when it's just 2 of you, it really highlights those differences. For me, I think having a machine which does the job adequately is all part of meeting a challenge rather than postie bikes. And you spent a lot of time waiting, stopped on the side of the highway. Ben and I were approaching White Cliffs, which is an opal mining town in the middle of New South Wales.
And it was pitch black. I still had no lights, so Duncan was the light.
And the sun had set hours ago, and we still had a couple of 100 kilometres to travel on. And Ben's headlight stopped working. Surprise, surprise, he didn't have a spare. And so we're trying to ride side by side with my pathetic headlight shining the way for both of us. And it's getting colder and colder, and it's darker and darker, and we're just going slower and slower and slower, and it's getting colder and colder. I don't know what the temperature was, but we were really feeling it.
It really takes you out of you when you're riding at night.
Well, actually, the ride in tonight was hard because I was always trying to give you plenty of room for the light. And so I was always sort of just trying to ride over where all the doggy stuff was. Trying to give you plenty of room and just trying to look at the lay of the land and see what was coming up. So when it was just Ben and I, it was definitely a different dynamic than when there was 4 of us. for dinner tonight? We've got some spaghetti bolognese.
Bit of rope, can't eat that.
Spaghetti bolognese.
Water, can't eat that.
Thai chicken curry.
Oh, hello. Classic beef curry. Benny Rollo's favourite.
When you're able to pare down your belongings to a small fragment of what you normally live with, and you can fit it all into a couple of bags on the back of a motorbike, I think that's a great way to remind yourself how little you need in life and how little you need to get by and still have a great time. But still, like, you can be out in the bush, you can have a bad night's sleep, you can be eating the same reconstituted, freeze-dried food, meat pies and all sorts of stuff that you find at service stations. But it's not really about that. It's about the fact that you can survive on very little. I think this is another one of those experiences where you come away from that thinking, yeah, like, do we really need those? You surround yourself with all this stuff that you don't necessarily need. I think it's great to remind yourself on a trip like this that you don't really need a lot of stuff.
Yeah, look, I mean, I've always wanted to do a trip where you eventually go to somewhere where you can surf, a bit of a surf trip.
And that was always going to be pretty interesting because obviously there's no surf. It doesn't matter how big the winds are or how big the body of water is, there's not going to be any surf out there. So there's always going to be a toe-in situation.
So I don't know, I just thought, I'm just going to carry a surfboard for the hell of it, and we'll get to the salt flats and we'll get towed along on the salt flats.
Salt Lake, eh?
In fact, I don't even know if that was my idea to get. It was the surfboard one thing. You get towed along behind a motorbike. It kind of seemed like a recipe to injure yourself. It's like, well, I'm riding a motorbike. What's that? That's not enough that I have to try and kill myself in the salt flats.
All the years we came here to do this, it's the wettest one.
I was having anxiety, because there was this massive salt lake on the map, and eventually we were going to get there, and eventually it was going to happen. I was going to have to man up, or whatever you want to call it. Eventually we were going to get to this salt lake, and I was petrified. I didn't say anything, but I was a bit worried about the whole thing, and I was so relieved it was full of water. So we rode down there, and I just went, oh man, I'm not doing something dangerous, I'm just going for a bit of a paddle. I'm glad Duncan didn't say just hop on the back and we'll do some, I'll tow you along on the motorbike and you can hang on to the surfboard or something. So I just went for a paddle out and got back in, and that was it. People who ride dirt bikes go for a day and ride a dirt bike, and then they come home and have a shower, But I like the side that you get the fun of riding the motorbike, but you get to see everything. you get to really know yourself after a while because you're in your helmet for 10 hours, sometimes 11 hours a day.
Finally, a nice straight bit of road. Even though you're in a helmet and even though you're cocooned in a way and all this stuff, it's not like you're in a car where you really are in a cocoon, where you can shield yourself from the heat or from the smells or whatever. But on the bike, you're exposed to all of that. You can just smell the grass or the air or the rain or the different things around you, the roadkill. It's hard to explain, but it's almost like you're part of the landscape, and so therefore you're more attached to it. And even though we had to deal with each other's personalities, and at times that wasn't that easy, it's all about seeing the country and it's all about maintaining that camaraderie, but it's mostly about that sense of freedom. Seeking out the unknown, challenging yourself. I think that's all part of the challenge as well, is to see if you can keep the bike going and in a way you become at one with the machine.
So just the camaraderie of the other guys and getting there unscathed, a few drinks. Yeah, it was a lot of hardship, but there was a lot of fun as well. So that's, to me, is take all that away and you wouldn't even ride. You need to have good people that you like and understand and who turns the light switch on of enjoyment in your life.
There's nothing better than getting back from a trip like that, and seriously, you can sleep for a month. You know, you these trips we go on, I mean, you look on a map and it just seems pretty simple, but I mean, if you drove there, you wouldn't even get the same sense of what we did. You just couldn't. And you get back from a trip like that and you go, man, I did it. I got back, I'm in one piece. And it's something that you'll never, ever, ever forget, you know? Every trip that you do, you'll never forget it. It'll be a highlight of, of your life. It's, you know, I hope to do many, many more.
Apollo 11, this is Hornet, over. Apollo 1, this is Apollo 11, reading you loud and clear. Our position 1330, 6915.
When we arrived after being on the road for 2 weeks, in a way I felt like I was coming back to Earth. But even though we went back to our everyday life, I didn't want to forget the experience we'd had. We might not have explored anywhere that was unexplored, but it was new to us. And even though we had some hard times and it was difficult and Josh broke his leg, and in retrospect so many other things could have happened, it's the experience of these rides that reminds me of what's really important in my life. And I think for me, adventure and exploration and these challenges that you put before yourself, they all link together through having fun. I think it's all about having fun, really, because without having fun, like, what's the point? What's the point of exploring something? What's the point of challenging yourself if it's not fun? I don't think this really changes your life, but it's just a matter of enriching it.
After the crash, my business took a turn for the worst. I couldn't work for a long time. I didn't put my foot on the ground for 4 months. So my overheads needed to be cut, so we had to sell our house and move. I got Dad to sell his house and we pooled our money. He's got his own house, we've got ours on the same property. So I see Dad every day now. It's really good. We're good mates and it's so good to have him around, and it's good for the kids to have him around. It's been amazing to see something that could have been so negative in my life be turned around to be the catalyst for something that's so good.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried about the future of our little adventures, mainly because the postie thing is no more. I've sold my postie, mainly because of Joshua's accident. So now we talked about maybe getting some sidecars and maybe doing that as an adventure, but I don't feel that it would be. Yeah, so it really bothers me that maybe we can't find anything suitable to do those sorts of rides and adventures anymore.
Probably sounds crazy, but adventure just happens to be a label that gets put on things that I like to do. But it's however it feels to me or to Duncan or to Ben or to Dad. That's what it's all about. We just love it and it's fun for us. Everyday life just sort of drags me down and away from the person that I want to be, that I feel like I am. These rides reset me, and I need that in my life.
Yeah, there's something about riding a bike that does change you. If you have an accident, I mean, it might incapacitate you for a while, but you cannot stop riding. It will, if you physically can't ride, I'm sure that it will be still in your mind, that feeling of riding, that freedom, the skill levels, the smells, everything. It will still be there.
bloody bastard. Alright, let's get his motherfucker up. 1, 2, 3, go! Ah! Oh! Oh, yeah! You alright?
Yeah, I'm alright. Man, that took me by surprise.
Oh, it's not like it's muddy or anything.
Oh, thanks. I got it all in my glove and everything.
I was just thinking before you had that crash.
Yeah.
I reckon we were riding for about an hour.
Yeah.
After that crash went off.
Yeah.
So we were doing about, I reckon,
Average of 20 or something?
yeah, 20 or 30.
So,
I'm just worried that we're going to run out.
now on the map it shows this is a straight road which follows the train tracks the whole way.
Yeah. I don't reckon there's any way. Fuck this road shit.
Yep.
We can't be more than, I don't know, 10 k's away.
Yeah, I reckon. That's the feeling I had too. Hang on, I'll just have another look at the map.
That's definitely the right road, yeah?
Yeah, because on the map it shows to follow the south end of the track all the way to Matataka.
Oh, yeah.
So we follow it all the way to Matakana.
Does it cross it again though, or do we go straight?
No, we should go straight. This crossing isn't even on the map.
Right.